Hello dear children, welcome to the class. Now today we are going to learn how to calculate national income by the first method, that is the value added method. Now when the process of production takes place, then the factor incomes are paid to factor of production for their factor services. It means there is an income flow corresponding to output flow. Factors of production spend their income on purchase of goods and services by making consumption, and they are going to incur the expenditure. Thus, production gives rise to income. Income results in expenditure, which in turn generates income again. And this is what we learn when we did our first chapter, circular flow of income, that how the real flow and money flow takes place in the economy. Production gives rise to income. Income results in expenditure, which in turn generates income again. So based upon this cycle, we are going to have three methods of calculating national income of any country. First is value added method, second is income method, and third is expenditure method. Now you use any method, fine, you are going to get the same value of national income. Let's start with value added method. See, this method is used to measure national income in different phases of production in the circular flow. It shows the contribution, that is value added, of each producing unit in the production process. Every individual enterprises adds certain value to the product which it purchases from some other firm as intermediate goods. See, कोई भी बेटा किसी भी हम इंडिविजुअल एंटरप्राइज के बारे में बात करें तो इंडिविजुअल एंटरप्राइज का जो वैल्यू एड है वो कैसे होता है, जो अपना फाइनल आउटपुट जनरेट करती है उसमें से हम उसका जो कॉस्ट है ऑफ इनपुट, दैट इज इंटरमीडिएट गुड्स, दैट वी सब्ट्रैक्ट and we get the value of value added by that individual enterprise. When value added by each and every individual firm is summed up, we get the value of national income. Value added refers to the addition of value to the raw material, that is intermediate good, by a firm by virtue of its productive activities. बेटा producers क्या करते हैं? Producers raw material purchase करते हैं, उनको प्रोसेस करते हैं, उस रॉ मटेरियल को कन्वर्ट करते हैं थ्रू प्रोसेसिंग इनटू फिनिश गुड्स एंड देन दे फाइनली सेल द प्रोडक्ट टू द अल्टीमेट कस्टमर. So value added is the addition to the value of your intermediate good, which is raw material, by the firm, means producer. How? By undergoing the production activity, by processing the raw material and converting it into finished goods. The second point, it is a contribution of an enterprise to the current flow of goods and services. It is calculated as the difference between value of output and value of intermediate consumption. So value added is value of output minus intermediate consumption. Now let's take an example, and with the help of an example, we'll see that what do we mean by this value addition. Suppose a baker needs only flour to produce bread. He purchases flour as input worth rupees 500 from the miller, and then by virtue of its productive activities converts the flour into bread and sells bread for rupees 700. Now in this example, flour is an intermediate good, it's an input, it's a raw material used by the baker for the bread. जो फ्लोर बेटा बेकर ने यूज किया ब्रेड बनाने के लिए, वो बेकर के लिए इंटरमीडिएट गुड है और इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन की वैल्यू हमारे इस एग्जाम्पल में है ₹500. नाउ ब्रेड इज द आउटपुट, its value is ₹700. So it is going to be termed as value of output. Now value added will be difference between value of output and intermediate consumption. So it means that the baker has added a value of ₹200. That is 700 the value of output minus the intermediate consumption, that is 500. 700 minus 500 will be 200. So the baker has added the value of ₹200 to the total flow of final goods and services in the economy. Value added by each producing enterprise is also known as gross value added at market price. और बेटा जब हम वैल्यू एडेड मेथड से नेशनल इनकम को कैलकुलेट करते हैं तो हमारे पास आता है ग्रॉस डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट एट मार्केट प्राइस. सो द सम total of gross value added at market price by all producing enterprises within the domestic territory of the country during 1 year is equal to GDP at MP. And all the producing enterprises are going to be there in primary sector, in secondary sector, and in tertiary sector. Imports are not separately included. If the value of intermediate consumption is given, then imports are not included separately, as imports are already included in the value of intermediate consumption. Import, obviously we must be importing the goods, for serving as a raw material. Means जो goods हम import कर रहे हैं, they are going to serve as a raw material in our production process. तो हम intermediate consumption already subtract कर देते हैं value added से. तो import of that raw material is already being considered. However, if domestic purchases are specifically mentioned, then imports will not be included. अगर बेटा domestic purchases मेंशन की होंगी कि नहीं, क्वेश्चन में मेंशन्ड है the domestic purchases are given separately, then in that case import will not be included. Let's take the example. Calculate intermediate consumption in the following cases. Now see the first case. The first case is intermediate consumption is 1200 and import is 300. Intermediate consumption IC is 1200 and imports are 300. Now intermediate consumption 1200, as imports are already included in value of intermediate consumption, so we are going to take the figure of 1200 only, ignoring this 300, as this 300 value is already included in this figure of 1200. बेटा जो intermediate consumption होगी तो उसके अंदर already 300 की imports included होंगे. Then next is purchase of raw material, the second case. Purchase of raw material from domestic firm, that is 500, and imports are now 100. Now see, the raw material is being purchased separately from domestic firms of ₹500 and imports are of ₹100. So in this case, the intermediate consumption will be ₹600. अब आपने क्वेश्चन में देखना है कि अगर क्वेश्चन में परचेज ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल सेपरेटली दिया हुआ है तो हम इंपोर्ट्स को इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन कैलकुलेट करते समय कंसिडर करेंगे. अदरवाइज अगर इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन दिया ही हुआ है तो उसके अंदर इंपोर्ट्स ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड होती हैं. नाउ यू कैन सी केस 3. परचेज ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल 1000 and imports ₹200. Fine. Now ₹1000 imports are not included in the total purchases of the raw material is given. अगर बेटा मुझे सिर्फ दिया हुआ है purchase of raw material 1000, fine, मुझे दिया हुआ है purchase of raw material और from domestic firms नहीं लिखा, फाइन, फ्रॉम डोमेस्टिक फर्म्स नहीं लिखा, इसका मतलब कि ये इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन ही है और इस 1000 के अंदर 200 इंक्लूडेड है. आई होप दैट द डिफरेंस इज क्लियर. विद द हेल्प ऑफ दीज 3 केसेस के इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन हम कैसे कंसिडर करते हैं. देखिए फर्स्ट केस में दोबारा रिपीट कर रही हूँ. फर्स्ट केस में इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन 1200 दिया हुआ है, इंपोर्ट 300 दिया हुआ है, तो वी आर गोइंग टू कंसिडर द वैल्यू ऑफ 1200 बिकॉज इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन में इंपोर्ट्स 300 इंक्लूडेड होंगी. सेकेंड केस में परचेज ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल फ्रॉम डोमेस्टिक फर्म स्पेसिफिकली दिया हुआ है, यानी कि ये जो परचेज है रॉ मटेरियल का ये हमारी डोमेस्टिक फर्म से ही है, तो ऑब्वियसली इंपोर्ट्स आर गोइंग टू बी कंसिडर्ड व्हाइल कैलकुलेटिंग इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन. सो टोटल इंटरमीडिएट कंजम्पशन विल बी ₹600 इन दिस केस. थर्ड केस में बेटा परचेज ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल दिया हुआ है, ठीक है, और इंपोर्ट्स दिए हुए हैं. तो परचेज ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल, क्योंकि इसके अंदर फ्रॉम डोमेस्टिक फर्म्स नहीं लिखा हुआ, तो व्हाट वील से दैट 1000 के अंदर we have to mention, if we have to consider this import, we have to mention that imports are not included as total purchases of raw material is given. Fine. So in this case, here also we are going to consider the purchase of raw material, and for calculating intermediate consumption we are going to add imports. Now let's understand the concept of value of output. Value of output refers to market value of all goods and services produced during a period of 1 year. How do we measure the value of output? When the entire output is sold in an accounting year, then value of output is sales. Now, when the entire output is not sold in an accounting year, that means there is going to be some unsold stock, and that unsold stock is added to the value of sales. So unsold stock is the excess of closing stock over opening stock and is termed as change in stock. Fine. So then in that case, see, change in stock, the last box, change in stock is closing stock minus opening stock. Value of output is equal to your sales plus change in stock. Or the other formula for calculating the value of output is, see, sales कैसे हमें figure मिलेगी? If we multiply the quantity sold by the price per unit, fine. So we are going to get the value of total sales. Total sales again plus change in stock is going to give us value of output. Exports are not separately included. Like imports, exports are also not separately included in value of output if sales are given and domestic sales are not specifically mentioned. Fine. अगर sales दी हुई है तो इसका मतलब exports इसके अंदर included है. और लेकिन अगर आपको अलग से दिया हो domestic sales, तो domestic sales का मतलब means sales within the domestic territory, then we have to include exports for calculating the value of output. In case of an open economy, sales include both domestic sales and exports. जब हम open economy की बात करेंगे, तो sales का मतलब है domestic sales and exports. So in that case, we are not going to add exports separately when we are calculating the value of output. We can see these examples, these cases. Sales 2000, exports 400. So value of output will be 2000. Reason being that these sales are going to obviously include the value of the exports. Then the second case is domestic sales 700 and exports 200. So now the value of output is 700 plus 200, domestic sales plus exports, which is equal to 900, as exports are included, as domestic sales are specifically mentioned in this case. I hope this point is also very much clear to everyone. Now let's move to the flow chart, the steps for estimating the national income by value added method. Now value added method, that is, first we calculate the gross value added at market price of primary sector. To that we add gross value added at market price of secondary sector and gross value added at market price of tertiary sector. Now if I'm going to take the sum total of these three, gross value added at market price of these three sectors, we are going to get GDP at MP, that is gross domestic product at market price, and we know that the standard notation of national income is NNP at FC. Now see, the standard notation of national income is NNP at FC. Now this G need to be converted into N. So for that we are going to subtract depreciation. The market price is going to be converted into factor cost. For that we are going to subtract net indirect taxes, which is nothing but indirect taxes minus subsidies. Now, if we subtract depreciation and net indirect taxes, we are going to get domestic income. And you see that the standard notation for domestic income is NDP at FC. This is NDP at FC. Now, in order to convert NDP at FC to NNP at FC, which is national income, we are going to add NFIA, that is net factor income from abroad, that is factor income received from abroad minus factor income to abroad. So we are going to get net factor income from abroad. And if we are going to add NFIA to domestic income, we are going to get the final answer, that is our national income. I hope that this algorithm for calculating national income by value added method is clear to everyone. Now the question arises that why do we subtract intermediate consumption from the value of output, your final output, to get the value added, gross value added? The answer is in order to avoid double counting. And let's understand it with the help of an example. Now see, the farmer sells wheat for rupees 500 to the miller. The miller sells flour for rupees 700 to baker. And baker sells bread to the consumer for rupees 1000. Fine. Now you can see output in case of farmer is wheat, in case of miller it is flour, because miller is going to purchase wheat from farmer, convert it into flour, the final output, and then sell it to the baker. And the baker's final output is bread. The value of this final output, wheat for farmer, it is 500. For miller, the value of final output of flour is 700. And for baker, the value of final output, that is bread, is rupees 1000. The value of input, we are assuming for farmer it is 0. Fine. We are just assuming, though farmer also purchase seeds, fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, but we are assuming here that the value of output is 0. Then for miller, the value of your input, the value of input for farmer was 0. The value of input for miller is 500, and the value of input for baker is 700. Now, if we see value of output minus input, the value of output for farmer, it is going to be 500 minus 0, which is equal to 500, rupees 500. Fine. It is rupees 500. Fine. And then 700 minus 500, the value added is 200 for the miller, and for the baker it is 1000 minus 700, which is equal to 300. Now what we do for calculating the national income, we calculate the total value added, 500 plus 200, 700 plus your 300, which is equal to rupees 1000. Fine. This is equal to rupees 1000. And you can see that this is the ultimate, the final value of good, which is sold to the consumer. Careful examination reveals that each transaction contains the value of intermediate good. We have already seen the value of wheat is included in the value of flour. The value of flour is included in the value of bread. And as a result, values of wheat and flour are counted more than once. And this may cause a problem of double counting. That is why we subtract intermediate consumption from the value of output. And if we are going to double count them, it is going to lead to overestimation of value of output of value of your goods and services produced. So in order to avoid the problem of double counting, we subtract intermediate consumption from the final output. So how to avoid the problem of double counting? First, find final output. Find according to your final output method. According to this method, value of only final goods should be added to determine the national income. We had just seen if we add the final output, find the value of bread that was sold for rupees 1000 to the final consumer should be taken in for the calculation of national income. Or the other way, which we just saw, we are going to see or calculate the value added at each level, at each stage. So according to the value added method, sum total of the value added by each producing unit should be taken in the national income. In the given example, value added by farmers 500, miller 200 and baker rupees 300. The total again is rupees 1000. That should be included in national income. So the sum of value added is sum of all the factor income. Then lastly, we just saw that flow chart showing the steps. Here the formulas are written in a horizontal manner. So gross value added national income will be gross value added by primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector, less depreciation, less net indirect taxes plus net factor income from abroad. And value added is nothing but value of output minus intermediate consumption. And how to calculate this value of output? Again, the two formulas that is to be used, value of output is sales plus change in stock, and sales is quantity, total quantity sold minus price per unit plus your change in stock, and change in stock is nothing but closing stock minus opening stock. Now let's calculate the national income or the gross value added by this firm A and firm B. The question is that calculate the value added by firm A and firm B. So the question is domestic sale by firm A is 4,000. Exports by firm A is 1,000. Purchase by firm A is 200. Then sales by firm B is 2,940 and purchase by firm B, which will be its intermediate consumption, is of rupees 1,300. Now see, since it's a domestic sales by firm A, so in order to calculate the value of output, we are going to add exports. So value added by firm A is domestic sales by firm A plus exports by firm A minus purchase by firm A, which is intermediate consumption. So 4,000 plus 1,000, that is 5,000 minus 200. So the value added by firm A is 4,800 crores. Then the second is value added by firm B is sales minus, that is your value of output, by firm B minus intermediate consumption, that is purchase by firm B. So 2,940 minus 1,300 is going to give us 1,640 crores. This is the value added by firm B. And if we add, if we say that, let's say the economy is having only two firms, firm A and firm B, and if I'm going to add gross value added by both of the firms, that is 4,800 crores plus 1,640 crores, we are going to get the national income of the economy. From the information given below, calculate the value added by firm A and B. This we have already calculated. Gross domestic product at market price. If I'm going to add both value added by firm A 4,800 and firm B 1,640, we are going to get gross domestic product at market price, and then we want to calculate net domestic product at factor cost. So for that, we are going to subtract depreciation and net indirect taxes from GDP at MP. Fine. Now the next question, again, we have to calculate the gross value added by firm A and B. Then definitely what is going to be GDP at MP, and then how can we convert it into national income. So these are the particulars. Kindly solve the three parts again. The question is sales by firm B to general government rupees 100 crores, sale by firm A rupees 500 crores, sale by firm B to household is rupees 350 crores, change in stock of firm A 20 crores, closing stock of firm B 40 crores, and opening stock of firm B is 30 crores. Purchase by firm A is 320 crores, indirect taxes both paid by both the firms 75, consumption of fixed capital is depreciation 120 crores, and sale by firm A to B is rupees 200 crores. Now see, this is the solution of the problem. Value added by firm A will be sale by firm A plus change in stock of firm A minus purchase by firm A. So 500 plus 20 minus 320 purchased by firm A. It is going to give me rupees 200 crore as the value added by firm A. Now value added by firm B will be calculated as sales by firm B to general government, to household, and then closing stock of firm B minus opening stock of firm B, that is change in stock, minus purchase by firm B from firm A. So 100 plus 350 plus in brackets 40 minus 30, brackets closed, minus 200 is going to give us rupees 260 crores. तो बेटा मैं जब दोनों को ऐड कर दूंगी, gross value added by firm A and gross value added by firm B, I'm going to get gross domestic product at market price, which is equal to rupees 460 crores. Now, if I need to have the answer in the form of net domestic product at factor cost, so for converting gross into net, let's subtract the depreciation, which is nothing but consumption of fixed capital. And then for changing market price into factor cost, again, we have to subtract indirect taxes paid by both the firms. So if we'll do that, 460 minus 120 minus 75 is going to give me NDP at FC, which is equal to 265 crores. I hope that the method, value added method of calculating national income is clear to everyone. Practice more question, as many as you can. You can discuss your doubts in the next class. And in the next class, we'll be doing the other two methods of calculating national income, that is income method and expenditure method. That's all for today from my side. Hope all of you have enjoyed the learning today. Thank you very much.